Officials switched to prioritizing economic recovery as CCSA expected to agree a new COVID approach. The baht rallied by 1% on Tuesday along with the stock exchange after it became clear that the Thai government is intent on reopening the economy in September and welcoming back foreign tourists, with wider access, by mid-October as promised by Prime Minister Prayut Chan ocha on the 16th of June last in a live TV address. The Thai government appears to be moving decisively this week towards a wider reopening of the kingdom in mid-October as one of the country's leading public health officials explained a new, more pragmatic and economy-friendly approach that will see the country living with the COVID-19 virus as the focus shifts to recovering the country's battered economy. News of the new approach and a positive statement on the Thai economy from credit ratings firm, Moody's, saw the Thai baht gain over 1% against the dollar on Tuesday, although in recent days, the Japanese financial giant Nomura predicted a continued weakening of the Thai currency to 34 baht against the dollar and an extension of this year's projected current account deficit, which undermines the currency, into 2022. Dr. Opus Kangkornpong, Center, outlined a switch of emphasis and policies that will be pursued by the government to control COVID-19 as he signaled a more pragmatic approach and policy of living with the virus on Monday. It is understood that the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, CCSA, will review the new plans as the kingdom is on course to reopen in September with wider access to foreign tourists as outlined by Prime Minister Prayut Chan ocha, in set right top, in his nationwide TV speech on the 16th of June last. The government's new emphasis on the economy got a boost on Tuesday when Moody's reaffirmed its bar1 credit rating and stable outlook for the country despite a plethora of economic problems including a projected economic contraction for 2021, a 2% of GDP current account deficit and a 10.1% budget deficit. With reports over the weekend and the latest figures published by the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, CCSA, showing a decline in infection rates, the government is reportedly moving towards a new containment strategy against the virus which aims to see the kingdom's economy brought back to life. Prime Minister calls for unity as he promises the kingdom is set to make a sustainable recovery from the crisis. Department of Disease Control Director General, Dr. Opus Kangkornpong, on Monday, revealed a new program Smart Control and Living with COVID-19 which will be considered by the CCSA this week. Government on target to deliver the PM's promise, made in June, to open up Thailand to foreign tourism. The top public health official referred to the statement given by Prime Minister Prayut Chan ocha during a live TV broadcast to the nation in mid-June last, when he told the public that the kingdom would fully reopen to international foreign tourism from mid-October. I am setting a goal for us to be able to declare Thailand fully open within 120 days from today, and for tourism centers that are ready to do so even faster, General Prayut said on Wednesday night, the 16th of June, just as the Delta variant took off, leading to a spike in infections which, it is understood, passed its peak sometime between the 13th of August and 16th last. Prayut says Thailand will revert to normal for tourism from mid-October as Phuket is set to reopen. We cannot wait for a time when everyone is fully vaccinated with 2 shots, or for when the world is free of the virus, to reopen the country. New approach focuses on the most vulnerable and coincides with a change in Germany where hospitalizations and not infections will be monitored on Monday. Dr. Opus gave some outline indicators of the new approach that would be taken by public health officials who, it is understood, will focus their efforts on threats posed by the virus and infection patterns related to the most vulnerable including those who are elderly and with underlying diseases. The new approach being promoted is similar to pronouncements coming from Western governments this week. The German government has just made it clear that the incidence of infection in any particular area will no longer be a key measurement in informing authorities whether to impose public health measures or restrictions. This is due to the high rate of vaccination among the population already achieved in Germany. We decided today that we no longer need comprehensive protective measures when the number of cases or incidents is 50 because a large proportion of the people are vaccinated, said outgoing Chancellor Angela Merkel. Germany will instead monitor hospitalization rates. Large shipments of AstraZeneca and Pfizer vaccines are contracted and on the way. By the end of the year it is understood that Thailand is set to receive a large amount of COVID-19 vaccines between now and the end of the year which should help the country advance its vaccination program on a surer footing. Last Friday, the Minister of Public Health, Prayut Chan and Dr. Opus were present when the ministry signed a contract with Pfizer Thailand's Deborah Seifert to deliver 30 million doses of the firm's mRNA vaccine by the end of the year, while, in recent days, AstraZeneca plc has confirmed that its initial commitment to deliver 61 million doses to Thailand by the end of 2021 will now be honoured. This should leave the government well on target to meet its goal of 100 million vaccine doses delivered by the end of the year in conjunction with other vaccine products. On Monday, at Government House, spokesman Anucha Chasri confirmed the Prime Minister was to take a call from Pascal Claude Roland Soriot, the worldwide chief executive of AstraZeneca. "We will now have to learn to live with COVID-19, said the Department of Disease Control Director General. "We will now have to learn to live with COVID-19 with the knowledge that COVID-19 will be an endemic disease, not confined to any particular country," said Dr. Opus on Monday as he outlined the new approach. The new plan will involve continuous outreach programs with response teams visiting the most vulnerable people and communities at risk. It will continue to mean prioritizing high-risk groups for vaccination. Move to protect manufacturing plants with bubble and seal measures against clusters of infection. For instance, on Monday, the Department of Disease Control chief explained the government is enhancing its testing and treatment initiatives targeted at factories at the center of the kingdom's manufacturing belt. An increase, this year, in Thailand's exports is seen as critical to offset huge losses incurred through the closure of mass foreign tourism and the loss of consumption caused by lockdowns. Dr. Opus explained that factories that are found to be infected will be subjected to bubble and seal measures which will be deployed if 10% of the workforce is found to be infected. Bigger crisis than 1997 as taxes give up and central bank urges up to 1 trillion baht more in public debt. Infected workers will be removed to nearby field hospitals and treated for the disease. Measures will be imposed for 28 days, constraining the movement of workers from the site until another test, conducted after 28 days, gives the all-clear. Plan urged by the Federation of Thai Industries. The goal of this program, developed in association with the Federation of Thai Industries, is to preserve the country's economic output at this time and keep factories open for production. Dr. Opus gave some indication that September should see Thailand reopening as lockdown measures are due to expire by the 31st of August. Government to reopen Thailand in September so that people can resume their normal lives from that point. It is hoped that from September until the end of this year, and next year, we will allow activities to restart and people to resume their normal lives, he said on Monday. Based on the figures currently available, it has been agreed that the outbreak situation has reached its peak and will slow down. At the same time, despite the lower level of infection which on Monday saw 17,491 infections, the first time since the 30th of July that they were below 20,000, he urged caution, saying it would take a few more days to confirm the trend. The kingdom announced 17,165 cases on Tuesday. However, the situation will be monitored for another 3 to 4 days to make sure the signs will be positive, though there are still some vulnerable areas that must be strictly controlled before the lockdown measures can be eased. Currently, only 8.2% of the population is fully vaccinated, but this will change with larger deliveries. The note of caution was echoed by Dr. Thirawaratanrat of the Faculty of Medicine at Chulalongkorn University. He suggested the figures being released may not reflect the full extent of the continuing virus wave and referred to problems with self-test kits. Thailand currently has only 8.2% of the population fully vaccinated with 25.8 million doses administered. However, the government seems to be looking ahead to a critical level of vaccination being achieved over the coming 2 months over the period running into the reopening of key tourist hotspots such as Pattaya, Chiang Mai and Hua Hin, in addition to the areas already receiving visitors from the Phuket Sandbox program. Phuket Sandbox has seen over 23,000 foreign tourists arriving, and they are now moving to other parts of Thailand under relaxed rules. The latest figures for the Phuket pilot program show over 23,000 foreign tourists have arrived, primarily from the United States, United Kingdom, Israel, France and Germany. Over 4,000 of these visitors have now exited the controlled sandbox in Phuket and moved on to other areas in the country, according to recent figures just released. This trend is expected to gain momentum after the terms of the sandbox were recently adjusted to allow such migration after 7 days on the holiday island instead of 14 originally, which has already come into effect. Officials feel the Phuket gamble has paid off. The Prime Minister and key public health officials are satisfied that the gamble taken by approving the initiative last June is now paying off, particularly as the scheme ran into a challenge with an outbreak of COVID-19 on the island which has been controlled. Phuket and Koh Samui pilot tourism reopenings feel the strain as infection numbers rise on holiday islands. Dr. Opus noted this on Monday. He said he hoped that where the virus can be controlled, economic activities can again be ramped up successfully. Moody's stable outlook note comes after warnings last week that the economy was hurtling towards disaster. The clear signal of a return to prioritizing economic initiatives is coming just in time for an economy that many feared, even as late as last week, was hurtling towards disaster. The government received a fillip on Tuesday when credit agency Moody's retained Thailand's bar1 rating and gave it a stable outlook. It cited the kingdom's prudent control of public debt in its favor while warning of the dangers of political instability and a slow recovery from the COVID-19 crisis because of the country's dependence on foreign tourism and other chronic problems. The ratings agency's assessment was highlighted by Patricia Mongkolvinich, the director of the Public Debt Management Office. Bank of Thailand governor called for 1 trillion baht in extra borrowing last week as kingdom sees first current account deficit since 2013. It came after Bank of Thailand Governor Sethapat Suthiwartnarupat, last week, urged the government to borrow a further 1 trillion baht quickly to help support the economy, a move which was questioned by Minister of Finance Arkham Termpatay Apasith on Friday, who suggested that the latest loan tranche of 500 billion baht, approved by Parliament in June, may be enough. What cannot be disputed is that the kingdom is heading towards its first current account deficit since 2013, which is expected to come in at 2% of GDP at $10.3 billion or 342 billion baht. This is the current projection from the country's top economic analysis agency, the National Economic and Social Development Council, NESDC. Government projected to run a 10.1% budget deficit. It comes as the government, which is approaching its year-end on the 30th of September 2021, appears to be heading for a 10.1% of GDP budget deficit following a lower deficit last year of 6.4%. The kingdom, since April 2020, has lost an estimated 3.6 trillion baht or $109 billion in foreign tourism income. Looming downside to the economy as a return to normal for foreign tourism will take some time. The economic damage inflicted by the pandemic and efforts to defeat the virus will not be repaired quickly, with the kingdom facing a looming downside. Thailand's weak growth outlook, especially because of its reliance upon tourism, has soured sentiment toward the baht, said Dheeraj Nim of the Australia and New Zealand Banking Group Limited this week when speaking with Bloomberg in New York. Its usual current account surplus has also turned into a deficit in recent months, eroding support for the currency. Baht rallied on Tuesday but is still down by over 10% in 2021, with Japanese firm Nomura predicting it to slide further into 2022 to 34 baht to the dollar. The baht has lost over 10.2% when measured against the last few hours of 2020, when the Thai currency dipped below 30 baht to the US dollar on the 31st of December 2020. On Tuesday, it rallied on the government's new strategy, ending the day at 32.9 baht, driven up by the more positive outlook. In fact, on Tuesday the baht gained 1.2% in 24 hours when news of the government's determination to reopen the kingdom was factored in by the market, coupled with the positive signal from Moody's. The bad run for the baht, however, over the year so far, has been accompanied by $3.34 billion of investor funds being pulled out of Thai stocks over the same period. Another year of economic contraction predicted by Standard Chartered Bank after last year's steep drop in recent days. Standard Chartered Bank has predicted that the Thai economy will see another contraction in 2021 following last year's record 6.1% contraction and also a disappointing year in 2019. In the meantime, Nomura Holdings, the leading Japanese financial holdings group, projected the kingdom's current account deficit to extend into 2022 and is expecting the Bank of Thailand to lower its interest rate in the short term. Such a move, coming at the same time as the U.S. Federal Reserve may be considering tapering off its supports to the U.S. economy, could see the baht fall further, with Nomura itself predicting a dollar to the baht exchange rate of 34 baht by the end of the year. Weak recovery predicted. Even if Thailand reopens, it predicts a weak recovery for Thailand's critical foreign tourism sector, even if the government moves to reopen all tourist hotspots by mid-October and in time for the high season, which runs from November to March. This was confirmed in a note penned by Nomura economists Chan and Yuban Parakumils this week. However, in Bangkok, Kobsidthi Silpache of Kasikorn Bank has urged more caution from the Bank of Thailand. The baht might be forgetting its mandate of managed float, he said. Excessive moves in the currency is counterproductive economically, as businesses cannot plan and price their products and services properly.